All
right.
How you want to get going? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just get started. So, do you have in front of you the calendar invite that I sent you?
Yes, I do.
What were the things we were going to talk about? Because I don't have that in front of me.
So you got on here. You got how we met, what brought us back together, how did I get started with hunting and fishing, the leap of faith, entrepreneurship and getting into the outdoor industry with photography, making connections on the trail, speak about your September adventures.
This is some high quality hosting right here. You have your guests tell you what your conversation is going to be about. This is.
Oh yeah, man! I'm in conference mode right now. Don't worry, I'm sitting at my desk.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, so I guess let's just go ahead and get started, and we'll kind of start running through it, and then I'm sure Stranger Things will be over, and I can go back upstairs where I want to be. So, all right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Log Talk podcast with Billy, running solo again today, and I do have a guest, and excited to have him on. And today we've got Rob Herrmann with us. And so first, I guess I'll just give a little rundown of who Rob is, and then
hello.
Yes, there he is. And this is what I do, and I find that I put people in weird spots where I'm like, today's guest is Rob, and then I just stop talking, and it's awkward silence, and then people are like, hi. So there you go. That's Rob.
You go right ahead, Bill. You riff on it, man.
All right. So Rob is a good friend of mine, someone who I met in college. So Rob and I met while we were going to school in Fredonia, and which is a state school here in New York. And he and I played baseball together freshman and half of sophomore year, and our friendship started there. So Rob and I have kind of been friends since then, and we're going to talk in this podcast and kind of go through the whole journey, which is kind of a unique one, of how Rob and I have kind of reconnected. And I think what you'll find and what I'm hoping to learn, because it's kind of funny because we don't really talk about this stuff, but I'd like to know kind of how you got into all this stuff with the outdoors, because I don't remember you being into that stuff when you and I first had met. So I guess I'll kind of turn the floor over to you, Rob, and I guess first, if you could let everybody know first where they can find you, because you're pretty active on social media. So I guess right off the bat, kind of lead with that, and then just kind of jump right into maybe how we met and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to chat with you, man. It's definitely been fun keeping in touch with you and keeping up with what you guys are doing. Like you said, obviously we met Fredonia State Blue Devils, maybe Blue Devils for life.
Yeah.
So we went to school together, and it was definitely a fun time up there. Wish we could have kept you around all 4 years, Bill, but we had a lot of mutual friends. We had a coach that wasn't exactly our favorite, but it was good to keep around with Donnie. One of my real close friends is now Billy's brother-in-law. So I think that's been a big part also of us kind of keeping in touch and staying together a little bit, because you get periodic trips out here, or you used to anyhow. I'm from Ithaca, New York. I now live in Denver, Colorado. So I've gotten to at least see you guys when you come out and hunt a little bit, and I just got a surprise sleepover from you on your last backpacking trip.
Yeah. We appreciate that. That warm shower and some laundry was clutch.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a mean burrito in the morning, too.
Yeah, there you go, burritos. But yeah, no, it was kind of funny. Obviously we went to school together, and we were around each other a lot in college, but our schedules were so derived around baseball that we really didn't, I don't know about you, but I wasn't doing that much in the outdoors in college, aside from fishing a little bit here and there. But our schedules, I think, made it a little bit tougher. Were you still hunting when we were in college?
A little, not much. And that was, I was always around it, and it was a huge thing in my life growing up. But once you got later into the high school years, and I know that your and I scenario was almost exactly the same there. It's just you didn't have the time. At fall, all through high school was football, and you just didn't have a whole lot of time. So once football did end, and you could hunt some gun, but it was just kind of a weekend thing and just like casual hanging out with the family. But then you go to the college level, the next level with baseball, and it becomes a 12-month a year commitment. And we were both into it big time. So hunting was, and I don't even know, so were you even into hunting before? Until after your hunting or your baseball career, when did that all?
I wasn't really that big into it. I hunted a lot. As a kid, I hunted a lot of small game, and I always had a BB gun or a bow or a slingshot or some sort of projectile launcher in my hand. So I've always been a shooter, but I wasn't necessarily a big game hunter, big time until after college, and that was when kind of schedules opened up, and most of the time I was playing generally 3 seasons a year, which made it tough. But usually I had a couple weeks off or a month off that was kind of right around bow season, and gave me an opportunity to mess around. And actually my first year that I was really available, I really did more scouting and kind of helped a buddy hunt the land that I grew up on, and that was one part that really got me interested, actually, was just because I started running a lot of cameras and managing the land a lot better. And even though that year I was more learning, I wasn't necessarily hunting super hard, but man, I got addicted to it. I got really into just the process behind it, and how much dedication it takes, and kind of tracking and trying to figure out where there's mature deer that you can get on, and that was kind of the spawn for me. I think that was really where it started to hit home, and I realized, wow, this is something that I really would like to pursue. And so, after that, I had been shooting for a long time, and I really enjoy shooting. I've always loved archery. I got my first bow when I was just a little tyke, and I always loved it. So to kind of bring not just shooting together, but turning it into hunting, it was, obviously brings a new element to it. So it's something that, I've only been really big into hunting for probably 10, 12 years now. But it's something that's just, it feels right. It feels good, and it feels natural. And a lot of it, I really started out as a fisherman. I grew up on Cayuga Lake, and summer times we had a cottage, and I pretty much lived on the lake. That was all I did, and that was a huge part of my life. So it wasn't just hunting necessarily, but that's a lot of why I have an interest in both. And really, for me nowadays, I think it's kind of whatever gets me outside. I'm happy to do. That's what kind of makes it really exciting, trying to do what I'm trying to do at the moment. So.
Yeah. And I think for you and I both, we're a lot alike in the fact that it seems like we're always trying to find the next thing to challenge us. And, all through growing up and through those college years, and you played ball after college, and that was kind of what you were doing. You were traveling all over the world. But you always, that was something that you were always committed to, you're training for. It was the challenge that you were always working towards. And, once that comes to an end, it's where do I put all that focus and that energy and that drive? And I think that's why so many, you find a lot of guys and girls our age, but, most guys that I'm primarily surrounded with in this, a lot of us played that are getting, we're kind of delayed into this. My brother, this was always number one to him. Outdoors was always okay, it's the weekend, I'm going with Dad to camp. And for me, it was not that. So I think that's why I think we definitely both are similar in that we've poured ourselves into it. And Donnie's the same way. Donnie was never, him and I were best friends. He was never really into the outdoors. And then all of a sudden he gets done with baseball too. And it's the kid's obsessed. And I think it's just because you're trying to fill that void of what you used to be spending your time on,
Yeah, it really is. It's, one is challenging yourself and kind of pushing yourself, and discovering new things. But I think a lot of it also is we have a competitive nature, and it's kind of it's an environment where you're not necessarily competing against other people, but you're able to actually put that energy into something that's growing and building, and trying to take you in some direction.
Right. Exactly. So I guess that's a little bit of your background, and that's really, I guess, kind of what I wanted to get at with, what brought us back together. Because I'm trying to think when you and I reconnected. It would have been when you came back from I don't know if you were in Australia or New Zealand, where you were, but how did you end up in Denver? Because I think that's the first time you and I reconnected after college.
Yeah, no, I had a really crazy route. Baseball was something I was really fortunate to get to experience a lot of the stuff that I did, and I played a few years in the States and kind of realized that I really loved the travel part of it, and kind of experiencing new places. So started to explore options, and I wound up playing 2 seasons in Australia. Played 2 in France, and I played 1 in Germany. And got to bounce all over when I was over there, and so it was a absolute blast. It was really, really cool experience to get to actually live somewhere is a huge thing. But then when I came back over, kind of same thing, like we said, it always ends eventually for everybody. It's kind of the thing with baseball or really any sport. You're dated as an athlete, to say. So, I got back to the States, and I was working and making good money, but not doing anything I was, looking to do for the rest of my life. And actually, a buddy of mine who is from Denver, who I played pro ball with out in New Mexico, hit me up one day and said, what are you doing? What are your plans? I know you just got done playing, and he actually had played in France also, so he was, we kept in touch throughout the years. And so he offered me a part-time job for the summer coaching. It was like a 3-month job for basically no money, and I said, yeah, why not? So I played in the Denver area for a while. I played in Liga Latina de Colorado, which is a lot of fun. It's the Mexican leagues in Denver. And nice. I had been in Denver and stayed there for a couple months, so I knew it was a beautiful place. I knew obviously the fishing, the hunting, the hiking, the outdoor scene. It was nuts. So it was kind of just a leap of faith where it was like, yeah, I'm happy to find a new spot. At that time also, I had been a vagabond long enough that it was kind of weird to be at home. So, I took off to Colorado and wound up hitting it off with that company, and they gave me a full-time job, and I was with them up until about 3 months ago now. So I'm now full-time on my own as a photographer, videographer. I mainly specialize in photography, but I do a little bit of it all. And I'm really trying to focus in the outdoor industry. So that's one thing that has been really beneficial about being in Denver is, just the fact that you have access to a really good crowd, a good kind of niche environment. Everybody's very outdoorsy, but then obviously the hunting and fishing scene is lights out. It's something that a lot of people obviously come from out of state to come here and hunt. So, I'm very fortunate to call this home now. Yeah,
it's been nice to have you there too, and now even more so. With Donnie having moved back here, to have you out there is still, having
still got
person.
one hub.
It's huge when you're going to go out west and do anything, just to have a person that that you can call when you're in a spot, even exactly like we were a month ago. That I don't know what we would have done I know what we would have done. We would have spent hundreds of dollars on hotels and stuff like that. So it's just good to have good people and spread out all over the place. And I'm glad you settled where you did. So
yeah, no, definitely. We were upset to lose Donnie. That's, I guess, a little backstory. Donnie's Billy's brother-in-law, and they used to live in Denver. He and Rachel, who we went to college with, also lived in Denver. And unfortunately, they moved back to New York to hang out with Billy and Sarah and in the Fam Bam. Bill Dan, Fam Bam, whole group. So we lost out on Donnie and Rachel, but it was fun to have them around while we could. But I definitely lost one of my fishing buddies. We didn't see each other a lot, but usually we were getting pretty slimy with fish goo when we did see each other.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but it sounds disgusting. Oh shit. So you kind of tapped on what you're doing with your with getting into entrepreneurship, and so it's a pretty big jump that you took. So I mean, you've got yourself established there in Denver. You got you and Summer have got a house. You got responsibility, and just during the summer, you decided that it was time for you to make that leap, and you wanted to go full time in the in photography and following your passion. So what's that been like? Because I mean, that's got to be a terrifying thing to make that leap and make that jump into trying to make a career out of this.
I mean, it's definitely I've done some exciting and terrifying things in my life, and it's probably the biggest yet. So it's been really, really fun. It's kind of like the delightfully terrifying. I'm out of my own now, and I really like that I can kind of set my schedule and make more time for summer and for some of the things that we would like to do. And baseball was a huge part of my life for a long time, and it was finally kind of time to start to walk away and do it on my own. So really with the photography, it's when I first started traveling, I kind of got into it just more as a hobby, and then realized right away that I was pretty interested in it. And so really I'm self-taught. I've been doing part-time photo work for probably 8 years or so now. Got to the point where with the baseball gig, I was pretty much working 6 days a week, and most weeks my one day off I had a photo gig of some sort. And it's been really fun. I was fortunate to get hooked up with a really good guide service out here. The Blue Quill Angler is a guide shop, and a fly shop, and they also guide. And I kind of started out following them around and showing them what I could do, and now I've been fortunate to get on a lot of their trips and do a lot of their corporate trips, and a little pile of everything. And obviously starting out right now, I'm taking most of what I can get. I do everything from family portraits, scenery portraits, product photography, videography. I work with a good buddy of mine, Corbin, who runs Bearded Bros Media. Bearded Bros Media is a really good company, and we kind of try to partner on some things and do some collaborative work and just keep it real with it. So it's still a fresh thing. Obviously, I'm only 3 months in, but it's been going pretty well so far, and I'm as happy as ever and enjoying it. So definitely having fun with it thus far.
Yeah, it certainly seems like you are, and pretty. I think with the stage I'm at now, with having a little guy and having a wife, can't say I am jealous of where you're at right now, but it's a pretty wild month that you just had, and some of the stuff you got to do in 1 month, essentially, just the second month of being full time into this. So we'll jump into that, but I think the one thing that I wanted to tell a little backstory on prior to you discussing what you did in September is when we went on our first, the same group of guys that we went out to Colorado here this year, the 5 of us, we went out on our first backpacking trip, would have been in 2017. So at that time, you'd been living there and Donnie was there. So obviously at that point we had reconnected and
yep.
we had
that
you.
was my first year as a resident.
Okay. So I guess, wow. So you would have come out there the year before, but you hadn't become a resident yet then. So you would just in 2017 become a resident.
Yeah. That was my first resident elk tag soup.
Tag soup. At least you spent $40 on that tag soup and not $600 whatever it is. Try not to
$60, but I know exactly what you're saying. I definitely $60 I'm willing to burn.
My tag soup was a mortgage payment this year. That's what my tag soup was.
Yeah,
and I damn well better not be. I don't even want to talk about it. So
let's skip that.
So let's just move on. So that's everybody's already heard those whining and crying stories. So on that first trip out there, we had planned with you and Donnie to come out that first weekend and spend some time with us. So it was pretty cool. So we were all out there. It was our first experience backpacking in, and you and Donnie, you guys came in and just had the fly rods. You did bring your bow, so you were able to get out and hunt for a little bit, and it was awesome. Like that was we told I don't know if we really told the story on this podcast, but you guys came up in, and that first Saturday of season there, Danny and I talked about that when we were on our drive out, the podcast that we had. I think it would have been episode 4.
Yeah, no, you guys
3 or
definitely
4.
mentioned that.
And we we had that death hike down the mountain, and the first person we saw on the trail was you, and you had started hiking down to us because you knew that we were coming, and you knew that we were struggling, and here comes Rob, and you're wearing your wading sandals that you're wearing, and we still had like a mile and a half, 2 miles to hike back to camp. And it was just like the greatest thing. You were writing, I never forget it, I took pictures of it. You were writing straight.
Yeah.
Jesus, you were scratching markings into the rock saying "Bill this way," and pointing an arrow. It was just funny coming across.
Yeah, I think I have a picture of that too. I remember the look on Zaylor's face when he first looked up and saw us, and it was funny because when I first saw you guys, I was expecting to see you guys, but somehow I didn't know it was you right away, and then I kind of locked eyes with Zaylor and was like, I saw the relief in his eyes when he saw Donnie and I. So it felt pretty good to do that. And then I think I took Zaylor's pack because you guys had just hiked up and down 18 mountains to get to us.
Yeah, that was it was a challenging day for the old Danny boy, and me too, but more on my pride than anything because I was not reading the map right. But
you're a psycho.
So
you
I got issues. Yeah. So you guys had caught a bunch of trout that day, and you cooked them up right on the fire in aluminum foil, and like that was one of the best nights up there by far. But so where I'm going with the story is Sunday you and I went out together actually hunting, and I had my mule deer tag for the muzzle loader, and you had your bow. So we were out walking around, and we ended up. And I still to this day I don't know if it was actually a bull or if it was those guys bugling that we heard. Who knows? I'll tell myself it was an actual bull. But
I think that was a bull.
I think so too. And so we got up there on that side hill, and we were kind of calling a little bit, and I was following your lead. I didn't have a damn clue what I was doing, and you had the elk tag, so cow calling or whatever, and we come back down to the trail. And we run into the two elk hunters that were packing out the cow, and little did you know, and little did we know that those two guys ended up being pretty important people for you to meet. But we ended up sitting there, and they were both actually they were huge for us too, because they were the ones that put us on to the deer and ended up helping us close the deal on that trip. And they were both exhausted. They had been packing out a bull or packing out the cow that they had harvested, and they didn't seem like they wanted to have anything to do with us. And I don't know if they pulled out dip or you pulled out dip. I feel like there was tobacco involved.
Nick pulled out a can of Grizzly, and he was they were probably looking at me like a crazy person because I had a bow and a fly rod. And
that's right. You're
over here with a muzzle loader and a pack on. They're like, "What the hell are these two jamokes doing?"
Yeah, what are these? You must be from out of state. And
that's
so we end up.
What they're thinking. You guys are from New York, aren't you?
Yeah. They knew they'd pick me off from a mile away, and they kind of opened up as we kind of started chatting, and they realized that we were not what they thought we were. I don't know. But they ended up being awesome, in that before we broke the conversation, you had made the offer to them and asked if they'd ever had anybody do any photography for them, And I can remember you exchanging contact info with them. And I'm not saying names because I don't know if they would want their names out there or not, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But, that was so cool. And then we connected with them on social media and follow along with them. And so I guess that kind of leads into, that's a huge part of what your September turned into. So I guess kind of talk a little bit about what you ended up doing to bird dog that over the last year and a half and, what that's turned into for you.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was definitely like kind of a weird crossing of the paths. And like you said, they were hiking out a cow, and we kind of sat down with him. And I think definitely they weren't real receptive to us at first, but as they kept talking to us, they realized that we were at least cool guys. And just from that encounter, I don't know if you felt the same way, but the way they were talking, you could tell like they're some pretty hardcore hunters. They're guys that they live up there now. So, a little backstory. They're both guys that kind of fly under the radar, but they kill, man. They kill big bulls. This year was a tough year for the one, but they're consistently out there killing public land bulls. And just hearing guys like that talk and hearing some of the encounters that they have and stuff, I knew right away that they were definitely some next level hunters that had done their homework and had worked hard to get to where they were at in hunting. And so that was really where I was really interested. It was kind of the thing where it's like, all right, well, these guys are legitimate hunters. Are they able to document it all? Are they taking photos? Are they taking videos? Are they doing anything to show how good they are? And they're great hunters, but they're not IT guys. Let's just say that. So it kind of worked out. I kept in touch with them a little bit. It was probably more of me like being a pestering little shit that they didn't really know. But I kept saying I'd be interested in coming out and following you guys around and kind of showing you that I can navigate the woods too and not get in your way. And it took full year. It wasn't the next year that I went out with them. It was the year after that. So, I guess it took me 2 years to kind of convince them that I wouldn't be too much of a ball and chain as they're bombing through the woods. And, that was kind of what led me into a lot of this September. So, obviously I just got out on my own, but this was the craziest September I think I could have had. So, basically I lined my September up around kind of their schedule. They're big elk hunters. They all go after muleys and bear too. But they have kind of a special location that I'm totally sworn to secrecy on by death. And, it was a really cool place to get to see and to get to see guys work land that they've been hunting for, 14 years they've been hunting this plot. And so it was very educational. It was unbelievable. They're really good hunters. And, one thing that I really learned this year too that I thought was really interesting is just seeing everybody's different style. And, there's different styles of whitetail hunters. There's different style of duck hunters, and, it all goes with it. But these two guys are very different in the way that they hunt elk. It was fun to see kind of both styles and see how they work together or work against each other at times, and you can see how the elk respond to different hunters, you know what I mean? So basically I went out my September, I guess we're kind of working into, but we went out the first couple days of September. I had just gotten done with a big video project with Yakota Supply, which is a fly fishing company out here in Boulder that I work for. So we got done with that. I was kind of semi-model for the shoot, and then I was taking photos also. I was the photographer for the shoot. So had a ton of work to do. I got a couple days to work on stuff, and then we headed out into the backcountry. So we went out. The plan, anyhow, was to go out 8 days. It was kind of early. It was like the first week of season, just after the first weekend. So the plan was to go out 8 days. Nick had an elk tag Nick had an elk tag, a muley tag, and a bear tag. So, the hope is to kind of get an elk, maybe get a bear over that, and then find a muley that you can get on. So it was, I was leading up to it. I was super excited. Obviously, I didn't know these guys that well yet. I talked to them a fair number of times on the phone, but, it's obviously, as good as any, it's a very different thing talking to somebody on the phone and talking to somebody for 7 days in the backcountry over a campfire.
Yeah.
So
you get to know somebody pretty quick when you go on an adventure like that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So that was really exciting. I was super excited. And the day before, so he called just to kind of recap. And, the original plan was I was going to be more taking videos and shooting photos. Wasn't necessarily, I was going to bring my bow up at least, but, wasn't necessarily going to be killing. But I got a call and he said kind of good news, bad news. Good news is bring your bow this weekend. You might get a shot at something. And bad news is I already killed my elk. So that opening weekend, he and a buddy both killed bulls. That's obviously when you're dealing with good hunters, I guess that's a opportunity, that's a chance. So yeah, they killed early. So it was a little bit unfortunate that I didn't, obviously didn't get to be there for his elk kill, but it was exciting nonetheless. So took my bow along. We hunted, I think, somewhere around the 5th. We were in there for 6 days actually. And so the whole plan was we were going to stay in there for 8 days and then go straight to Kansas after for whitetail. And we were in there, and he kind of wanted a couple of days off. He had already killed an elk, obviously, and it was just a little bit slow. It was still super hot because it was that first week. So we stayed out. I think we did 6 days out, hunting and shooting. We had some awesome hunts, had some really good hunts. We saw some really good bulls and a lot of really good activity, but they were kind of hugging private land, and the bulls were still kind of like they were running around being boys. They were kind of playing grab ass and weren't really doing their thing with the cows yet. So, just a little early. So didn't get anything that weekend, but it was fun. And, like I said, like each one of these hunts, man, that hunt, I just learned so much. I saw so much, seeing just encounters with not only bulls, but cows and other animals, and just seeing the backcountry and the way that it works out here. Like coming from upstate New York, it's such a different beast. That's something I know you guys focus on a lot, and it's a crazy thing.
And even getting to experience that with those guys that knew how to hunt that area and what the animals were going to try to do, and it was that area where you were, it was so much different than the area that you had hunted, and you had hunted the last 2 years where we actually hunted this year, our group. So like those two areas are distinctly different as far as the terrain and the topography and stuff like that. So, to get to experience with people that know what they're doing in that other area, it could, just to see the stuff you did, who knows how long it would have taken. You could have walked in there and seen it day one, but, you got right in there with somebody to show you, this is how it's done in an area like this, It's pretty sweet.
No, definitely. I've been pretty gifted with what I'm doing to be able to learn as much as I have since I've been in Colorado because, like I said, I've been shooting with some of the best guides in Colorado since I got here. And, to see a seriously experienced fly fishing guide work a stretch of water and to see a guy who's been hunting a piece of land for 15 years, to see that happen, it's just a totally, totally different story. It's, obviously we know our lands in New York, but you come out here and try to bomb around somebody else's mountains, and it's kind of like the holy crap factor. It's it's a different game when you jump into it. So it was definitely. I was very fortunate to see that. There's obviously season to season, it's different, and they've had seasons in that area where they absolutely kill it, and everybody fills tags, and everything goes great, and just as is hunting, there's years where you got tag soup at the end of the month, and you're sitting there wondering what happened, you know.
Yeah, right.
But
so
no,
you did that, and
really
you guys
cool.
went to Kansas and for the deer,
Yep, so,
and then you came back out to Colorado.
Yeah,
for a
so
short
that
period
was
of
really
time.
fun too. It's like really the Kansas trip, man. That was one that like I hope someday, Bill, we can get some experiences in these kind of Midwest whitetail areas because you know, we had a couple days off before we left for Kansas. We headed to like the smallest town in all of Kansas. It's unbelievable, but you know, it's cowboys and whitetails out there. Like that's what it is. That's all it is. And it was fun stuff. You know, the first couple of days we were kind of doing all this stuff, pulling cards, moving cameras, filling feeders, you know, doing everything they do out there. And then when bow season kicked in on that Monday, we were hunting hard. We were doing 2 days. And so it was cool, but once again, it was hot. It was super hot that week. It was like 100 degrees out. So just not ideal whitetail weather, obviously, but he passed on some good deer. You know, he passed on probably 6 deer that were once in a lifetime bucks for you and I. So yeah, it was a good indicator of the quality of deer, but it was just really cool to see that type of whitetail country. You know what I mean? There's a lot of deer that are locals that they keep track of, and then, you know, you get that cold snap and all of a sudden a bunch of megas show up that they've never seen before. And, you know, these are deer that just have people from New York drooling all over the place. You know, just a crazy quality. So that was cool also, and he didn't kill. I was fortunate. I was on one hunt. There's a young, a 9-year-old boy, and his dad came into town from Texas, and he had a whitetail rifle tag. So, you know, basically I was just sitting around. So I said, hey, you know, I'd love to come video your hunt, photo your hunt, see if we can get something. So I sat in the blind with those guys, and that was actually the one kill in September, that I got. But the 9-year-old shot a pretty solid, like 140 inch 10-point. That was his biggest.
Oh yeah, that's no big deal.
Yeah, no, just a little guy, but you know, it was
just your average 140 inch.
Yeah, it's just cool, but so yeah, so we had some good hunts there, but.
So we talked for like a year, you know, about, oh, this is going to be great. We're coming in September. You're going to come with us and film it for us. And then I get the phone call like a week and a half, 2 weeks before we come out. And I guess I'll let you share what opportunity hit your plate. But we got trumped pretty hard and never got to see you in the mountains. Did you share that?
Well, I want to go ahead and apologize for that right now, Bill.
You don't mean that. You don't mean that. Don't say that.
No, I do mean that. I mean, it was the odd thing also now looking back at it is like hunting season wise, you know, if I knew it was going to be 100 degrees in Kansas that week, I would have stayed with you guys the entire week.
Right.
And, you know, that's just kind of how it goes, though. It's like there's no real telling how it goes. And so, anyways, I left Kansas. He stayed there for 4 more days. You guys were just finishing up your hunt, so I literally got a rental car. It's like from where we were in Kansas, I had to drive 2 hours to get a rental car. Got a rental car, drove back to Denver, and then here come Billy and Trigger over here.
Yeah, but you're missing the big reveal about the offer and the opportunity that hit your plate in the beginning of September.
Okay, sorry. So that was kind of beginning of September. That was early on, but yeah, just kind of last minute. I got a message from a guy and got a referral from a guy who I don't even know. He had just been following me on Instagram for a while and kind of recommended me. And so AccuBow is company AccuBow that makes a training aid. It's a really cool training aid for bow hunting. I was fortunate to get one. I actually really like it. I think it's a great tool. But AccuBow was going out on a hunt, and they had a couple cool guys coming along. Of that was Adam Greentree, which most people probably know. Kimmy Greentree was coming along with him. Then he had Jerry Redmond, who's a producer from Bow Hunt Down Under, was coming along with him. And then, so the owner of AccuBow is Matt Pell. Matt's a really good guy, and he had one other buddy coming, Donnie Howell, who owns Ready Nutrients. So basically they were going on a Colorado elk hunt. That was the week that I was planning on hunting, really. But he said, hey, it's kind of last minute, but we're looking for a camera guy for a crazy hard hunt up in Colorado, and we're going after public land elk, and, wanted to know if you were available for it. And so, I jumped all over it. I was pretty excited. It was really funny. That's literally, my girlfriend Summer is, she's gotten into the fishing and hunting scene a little bit, and she's been really big fan of Adam and Kimmy Greentree. So when I told her that, she was pretty ecstatic. It was funny, and obviously excited, but just a cool opportunity that really came up through Instagram. Really, it's kind of crazy.
It's pretty incredible to have it. That's like when you called me and you're like, Bill, you're never gonna guess, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to guess. It's like, that's a pretty big deal to have an opportunity to go out there with them and experience that. So I guess kind of roll through that hunt a little bit. What was that like? We haven't talked. So I've just been following along with your story, but.
Yeah, no, I haven't really talked about it. That was, obviously just really cool. Like I didn't exactly know exactly what I was going into. I knew it was going to be a elk hunt, but I didn't know exactly, like, logistics wise what was going to be going on. So basically I hiked in with the Americans. So the Aussies, Adam, Kimmy, and Jerry, they had gotten there the night before. They hiked in the night before. So they hiked in and set up camp on the Friday, and we were hiking in on Saturday. So it was myself, it was Matt Pell with AccuBow, and Donnie Howell. And so we hiked in, and it was pretty funny. Adam's like he's a billy goat, like he's a hiker, dude. He gets after it. They had sent him a couple pins of like camps that they had hunted in the past. Donnie had hunted this land for quite a few years actually, and they've had a lot of success in that area. So he sent him a couple pins and kind of gave him like a general idea of where to camp. And supposedly on the way in, there were hunters and campers in there, so they kept going, and a 2.5 mile hike turned into a 5.5 mile hike, and up a pile of switchbacks on top of a mountain. So it was a little bit of a hike in with camp on our backs, and the way we do it. But no, it was definitely it was a really cool area. It was up like almost into Wyoming there, in the Route National Forest, and we had a good time, but it was some brutal country, man. It was a lot like the valley that you've been hunting in on your trips out here, and
Oh, was it pretty similar?
Yeah, it was. It was a little bit different, but similar in like what you're trekking through. It's just deadfall for days. You're just going through some brutal stuff. If you're bombing through dark timbers, it's not going to be easy.
What was the elevation you guys were at? Roughly?
We were most of I think our camp was at 10.3. It was like 10.35, and then most of our hunting, I think we kind of found that the elk were like high 9,000s to 11,000.
Oh yeah. So you guys were dropping down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. That was it was a cool area, man. It was hunting a lot of basins and side hills, but we did 59 miles in 6 days, and I don't think there was a flat step in there. You know what I mean?
So they were all vertical miles?
Just 800 vertical miles in
right.
4 days and 2 nights of straight hiking. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty
just tough country, and we had some opportunities. We had some really good opportunities, and I got some cool footage, but it was just unfortunate we weren't able to put anything on the ground in the first few opportunities. And one thing I've learned is just really how challenging the elk hunting is. And, you know, the outside elements you can't control. And so we had a couple days that were super windy, and the windy days it was just so hard to locate. You know, it's hard to locate, and the wind was pretty swirly too. So it was kind of a situation where it's like you go bombing into dark timber, you probably won't even see them before they smell you. So, you know, a little bit debilitating as far as the weather went, but we had fun, had some opportunities. We probably should have killed on day 2 or 3. Just kind of couldn't make it happen. We were super close, and had a couple good opportunities, and that was it. But it was funny. We were, you know, basically we were breaking off. So we had an American crew, we had an Australian crew. So the Green Trees and Jerry Redmond were going off and hunting on their own. We were hunting on our own, and they were trekking, man. We did a lot of miles, but kudos to Kimmy Greentree. She was following Adam around all week, and like they use kilometers, but man, they were doing 20-kilometer days, which is 12, 13 miles.
Wow.
And they had a lot less luck than we did. Like, they really didn't have any encounters. We had some really good encounters. They ran into more Adam Greentree fans than they did elk, so that was
really that's hilarious.
Yeah, there were a couple of encounters, I guess, where it was like, oh man, Adam Greentree, who would have thought I'd meet you out here? So, you know, kind of one of those, but they were hoping to see elk, and they were seeing fans, which isn't exactly what you're looking for when you're trekking around a foreign country.
Dude, I mean, you start listening to a lot of people's accounts of what's going on in Colorado, and you know, now like a lot of podcasts are coming out of people that were hunting archery or out there for muzzleloader, and it's like it blew my mind on Saturday, opening day of muzzleloader, how many people were back in there 6 miles in where we were. It's like, and then where did they go? Like, all these people hiked in, and there was guys wearing day packs and guys that were wearing like normal whitetail hunting gear, like not like carrying camp on their back. Yeah. And then, so there was a lot of those guys, and then there was also, I mean, the volume of hikers was shocking.
Yeah, the hikers out there, like, that surprised me. I mean, I told you the one morning I was out in that unit that you guys hunted, I was kind of on a stand. It was like 8 a.m. The sun had just came up, and the CDT is right there, and I heard something trekking up the trail. It sounded like it was a cow coming or something, and look up, it's 8 a.m. I'm 8 miles back, and a woman runs by with a freaking running belt on. And I was like, "What what are you doing here, lady?" Like, and my whole
what time did you leave the trail?
Yeah, what time did you leave the trail at? It took me 3.5, 4 hours to get in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you see that, people go in and out in a day, and it's like, man, all right, maybe I'm not that hardcore.
Yeah, and I mean, there was nonstop the entire week. There was no other hunters. Once we got past the weekend, we didn't see a single hunter. We saw one guy when we were coming back in on Monday. We ran into one guy on the trail, but aside from that, not a single hunter. But there was nonstop campers and hikers back in there 7 miles where our camp was. And I'll tell you this real quick. We had on, it would have been like Wednesday or Thursday, we saw this group of people. There was like 15 people, and they were on this like 15-day adventure where they left.
All together?
Yeah, where they left, and they were they were taking this ridiculous route. They were telling me where they were going to go, and they weren't like just trying to stay on the trail. Like, they were trying to do like peaks and passes that were like not normal, you know. And so Bob and I were over in the corner and up against the rock face where there's nowhere to go except for there's one area, and we were like hearing people talking, and we're like, where in the hell are there people talking? You know, did somebody put a camp up here? And we look up on the side of the mountain, and these people are coming down. This group of 15 people, they went out and walked this entire ridge, top ridge, where there's nothing up there. It's way above tree line. Walked the entire ridge, and then they were coming down a goat path, and they're all wearing helmets, and we're just blown away. and then they go right across and they walk on the avalanche chutes all the way across the entire basin, and right through it where all the elk and all the deer have been. Yeah, they were wearing helmets and just talking like me and you are right now. And I mean, it's great, it's cool, but it was just the last thing you were expecting to see back in there. And the animals didn't really seem to be affected by it. They were right where they were going to be every morning and night. The deer and elk were, but it was wild.
Mean, it's funny how they kind of know that, you know, they can feel when they're being hunted and not, but at the same time, during the hunting season, you don't necessarily hope to see a group of 15 people with helmets on trekking through your hunting ground.
No. Yeah. And I mean, they're all, and the guys bust on me for wanting to talk to everybody, but, you know, I think it's super important to be there. There's a lot more recreators than there is hunters. And I think it's super important to be open, you know, outward. And, you know, we talk about meeting those guys on the trail, like they were hunters, but you meet a lot of these hikers. I mean, you gotta have that trailhead diplomacy, and a lot of guys that I've listened to on podcasts that live out there, and like, that's what they do. Like, it's super important. You know, they wanted to ask questions. They were interested in what we were doing and how much do we pay for tags, and, you know, what's our tag good for? Like, it's cool to, you know, interact with them, with the people that are out there just recreating, because, you know, they're a big piece of the puzzle too.
Yeah, that's the public land thing. Like, it's exciting to see people using the public lands, and, you know, whatever it is that gets you outside, that's your thing, and that's really how I feel out here. Is like, there's so many opportunities and so many different hobbies that do get people outside, and it's good to see people like really going out and enjoying them. And, you know, obviously that's a trip that not a lot of people are going to do. So kudos to them to getting out there.
Yeah, with their helmets. Yeah, it was pretty wild. So back
to
wear
your helmet while you hunt, Bill.
I don't think that's a bad idea, Rob. I'd maybe like a welding helmet or something, so I can't see the stuff that I'm gonna. Yeah, Danny should wear a bubble suit. You know, I'll wear a helmet and he'll wear a bubble suit.
Let's wrap that kid in bubble wrap and
do like that.
Throw him in the corner.
That kid from the Little Giants, when they don't want him to get hurt when he goes out there. The kid wearing the glasses. Actually, that's probably what Danny looked like when he was a kid, if I had to guess. Kind of snot dripping out of his nose and like really thick glasses.
Yeah. Did he buy his crossbow yet?
I don't know. He's dropped off the face of the earth. I hope he's still alive. I'm not sure. He did like a couple of my posts the other day.
You're giving him a hard time, but I'm rooting for Danny. I'm rooting for him.
We all are. We all, like, we joke about it. We're just like, man, we were thinking this is like all fun and games, and little do we know, like, he literally could have been, like, something crazy could have happened. He could have been like hours away from death, and we had no idea. You know.
Do you want to give a little backstory on how empathetic your wife is compared to you, Bill?
Yeah, she's a lot more empathetic. You know, because Brian. Well, I was reacting emotionally to how Brian was acting, you know. I almost wanted to be in the hospital bed next to Danny. It was like a torture hanging out with Brian like that. But it was. I mean, Brian and I were both ready to go home. And it's funny because when you so badly want to be out there, but once you get that in your head that you're going home, it's like, we're going home. I mean, it's no different than if you've got a flight to go somewhere and then that flight gets canceled and you're just frustrated, you know? So it's like, it was Brian and I, we were getting to the point where it's like, okay, we couldn't figure out really what was going on. Didn't have a time frame. Like, we want to go home. And both Molly, Brian's wife, Molly, and Sarah were both like, you guys are jerks. Like, you are staying there with your friend to support him. So I'm glad that, you know, we have our women to kind of show us the light. They are correct, and I'm glad we stayed, and I know Danny's glad we stayed, and you know, it was good. He actually beat us home, which is ironic. You know, we left at like 3:00 on Saturday afternoon, and Brian and I made great time. We got home at like 2:15, 2:30 on made it home by halftime of the Bills game on Sunday, but Danny was home and sitting at his house by noon, and you know, that's just how it works. But
Yeah, joke's on you, Bill.
Joke's on us. Man, I hammered down, Rob. I drove I don't know how many hours I drove, because I drove all the way from the mountains where Brian and I were hunting. I drove all the way from there back down to Denver. We stopped at your house, and I had to get my cereal and my milk out of your fridge, because that was super important.
You did leave your Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the fridge.
That's right. And for the record, Sarah just ate that for dinner 4 days ago. Not the milk, but she ate the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Yeah, I had to have it so bad that we had to stop at your house.
Reconsider.
Yeah. But it was quite the wild journey home. But so back to just wrapping up your trip with the green trees. So that's pretty cool. You got that experience, and it sounds like you also made some good friends and connections there with the other folks you were hunting with, and it's pretty cool opportunity you had.
Yeah, all the way around, man. There's some really good hunters. They're obviously really well connected in the hunting industry. So it was kind of funny to hear that they know everybody that's anybody in the hunting industry. And hearing some of their stories and hearing Adam's stories, man, that guy's probably the best storyteller I've ever met. He was quite the entertainment around a campfire.
What was he calling you? What was the name he was calling you?
I don't know if I can say that on the air, Bill.
Yeah, you can. Well, it doesn't have a just say it. I don't care.
What? I'm not sure what name you're referring to.
Well, there was in the video that I think he posted it on his Instagram story.
He kept saying,
he was just
fucking
calling
no
you
names, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He said unless we had a bow in our hands, we were no names because we were cameramen. So it was funny.
Yeah, you were no name cameraman.
Yeah, he knows how to give the shit, man. Those Aussies, they know how to give you the piss.
The question is though, could you give it back to him? That's the question.
Oh, definitely. And he, I said, well, I'm no name now. I said, I got a tag in my bag. What does that do for me? He said, well, you're getting close, mate. And he was a funny guy. He was real entertaining. Kimmy was a sweetheart, and Jerry was a lot of fun. And it was, having them around camps. Like obviously, I mentioned earlier, I lived in Australia for 2 different summer times, and actually the craziest story, we get talking. And I told them I lived in Canberra for a year, and they were like, oh, no way, mate. Canberra, what are you doing in Canberra? And I told them I was playing baseball, and Adam said, man, that's crazy. Like, you probably know Russ. And I said, Russ who? And he said, do you know an umpire over there named Russ? And I said, well, yeah, I definitely know Russ. Like, I've caught several games for him. He said, mate, that's Kimmy's dad. And so it was like,
that's hilarious.
The biggest small world thing. And so I started naming a lot of my friends from over there, and they literally knew everybody I know in Australia. And it was just kind of like a mind blow situation. And they said, of all the no-name cameramen that could have came up in the mountains with them, it was a guy that caught baseball games for Kimmy Greentree's dad. So it was, it was a funny situation.
Now I want to know, if the name that he was calling you was so bad that you didn't even want to say it on the air. I don't know what he was calling you, but
just a common Australian term that we don't.
Okay. I'm glad you didn't say that, because I had a feeling that was where he was going, because him and Kimmy throw that around.
I feel like your mom's gonna listen to this, Bill, and I don't.
Yeah, she is. I love you, Mom. Sorry for the F words that I've said on here. I love you so much.
Love you, Mom.
Just a word.
But yeah, no, that hunt was a blast, man. It was a lot of fun, and so anyway, I didn't even mention that was supposed to be an 8-day hunt. Also, we get to day 6, and so Adam and Jerry were gonna hike Kimmy out. They had to take Kimmy to the airport, so they were gonna hike out. Kind of with the way that the hunting had been going, they thought, okay, we'll hike out and then we'll drive back out and maybe pick a new unit and go try to get on some elk in a different place. So our schedule, we were supposed to stay. We hunted that morning. It was super windy, like literally 30 to 40 mile per hour winds, probably gusts above that. And the weather report we were able to pull up basically showed the same thing for the next 2 days. It showed rain the next day also. And it was kind of just at that point where it was like we couldn't find anything in that wind, and there was really no good pursuit in the animals. It was just really tough. And so we were kind of taking a break. We were cleaning up, hanging out on the creek, and all of a sudden the winds really started to kick up. And the area that we're in burned about 4 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And so between beetle kill and burn and, even the green trees, well, not Adam green tree, the actual living trees, there's just stuff coming down, like trees coming down like dominoes. I've never seen such a thing.
Oh, my God.
And so it was –
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking at first, and Donnie's a badass hunter, man. He's a hardcore guy. He's 53, but he's a straight bomber. And he was like, he had a bad encounter with a deadfall tree one time, and we kind of started to get a little bit uneasy because we literally we had multiple trees coming down within 100 yards of us, just absolutely blasting, just taking out other trees. So we decided to hike up the camp, so we hiked up the camp, and like I said, we were kind of on top of a mountain, so we got up there, and super high winds up there. There were a couple trees that were pretty sketchy, so we packed up camp and kind of planned to see if we could find a place, kind of lower down in the meadows. And on our hike out, really nothing changed. We literally, I bet we climbed over probably 20 trees on the trail that had come down that day.
That had come down since you came in? Damn.
Yeah, well, that day, because Donnie had hiked out 2 days before also, and none of this stuff was on there. And, we're talking serious trees, and we saw a couple come down. We were standing right next to a couple when they started to crack. And it was just you hate to back out because of weather, but man, it was a situation where it was pretty uneasy to be in there anywhere.
Yeah.
So we backed out. We looked at a weather report, kind of saw it was the same idea, and so they wound up calling it. So we called it on the 6th day instead of the 8th, and it was just another really good indicator of how hard elk hunting is. And obviously, that. That week should have been pretty much prime time because it was the last week of season, but you catch 3 days that are 40-mile-per-hour winds that kind of, almost cancel out your day of hunting, and all of a sudden you go from an 8-day hunt to a 5, 4, 3-day hunt,
Yeah.
So it was definitely, it was a challenging one, but it was a lot of fun. Like I said, we probably could have killed. We had some good opportunities. And so that day we hiked out. I headed home. I stayed at home I think I was home for 12 hours. I was fortunate. I wasn't supposed to see Summer, so my girlfriend Summer she's been traveling for work. I've been traveling for work, and we literally weren't supposed to see each other for over 3 weeks. So, the fact that hunt got cut short, I was kind of excited to see Summer, obviously. So I got home and stayed home for about 12 hours, and then drove right back out and met up with Nick and the other guys who I started September with, and had 2 days to kill. I had a tag in my pocket. One of the other guys, John, still had his elk tag, and then there was still a pile of muley and bear tags around camp too. Kind of knew what we were getting into, but same idea. We got up there, and it was 40, probably 50, 60-mile-per-hour winds at times. We had and wind I've never seen before. Literally, you're up in a glassing spot, and you're falling. You're getting knocked over, dude. Straight knocked over.
Yeah.
And so
that's no good.
Just not the most conducive to animals moving. So we hunted 2 more days, and we finished the season up, busting our ass, but we didn't have any elk to show for it. So it was fun. It was exciting, super educational. We kind of really showed me that when you get your opportunities, you got to really relish them. You got to really take advantage of them. But it was fun. It was definitely a blast, and that finished the stretch. I mean, I slept one night at home in 8 days, which was huge. But I did, I think, over 75 miles in 8 days. And, you know, like we said, just not very many of those steps are level. So it was just a very good indication of what elk hunting can be and what it is if you're really trying to get into them. You know, it takes that. It really does.
How much weight did you lose? Did you weigh yourself?
Yeah, I think I lost 11 pounds.
Wow. You're just a little guy, too. That's a lot of weight for a little guy.
I'm a heavy guy, though. Like
I know you are.
I'm a little guy, but I'm still
built,
190 pounds usually.
You're built like a stump. Yeah, you always weighed more than me, and I was like 6 or 8 inches taller than you. It doesn't make any sense. No matter what I did, Herm, that's right. You put me on that Mass XXX, and I gained my 20 pounds first 2 weeks of college, and then I've been at the same weight since 2006. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
So, yeah, that
shaker bottle of cheeseburgers you were drinking.
Right. So that's a pretty wild September. So now you're I guess, what are you doing now? So I mean, what's the next few months look like? And I mean, what are you gonna do?
That is the question, Bill. That is the question. No, it's a little pile of everything. You know, I've got a couple hunts that I'm trying to get on. There's one tough thing about going out on my own when I did was it was kind of you know, it was pretty late for most hunts. Like most people are lining up their hunts obviously well before the hunt. So it's been a little challenging finding hunting stuff, but, you know, I'm trying to keep myself busy with just a mix of the fly fishing and hunting industry work. And, you know, it's big senior portrait time and some family portraits and all that fun stuff.
Christmas pictures.
Oh, yeah, baby. So
if you live in, I mean, our listeners are all over the world. We're an international podcast. So if there's anybody that lives in Denver,
Outdoors.
Yeah, Pertinier Outdoors is international. So,
I do it all. I do puppy shoots, baby shoots, family,
right.
senior, whatever you got. I can
whatever. I mean,
cameras.
Yeah, whatever it is. So are you coming home to New York at all during deer season or what?
Yeah, I am actually. So, you know, that's one trip that I definitely try to make every year. I think I've made it every year since I've been back here. But, you know, I'm really fortunate where I grew up in New York. Like I kind of grew up in the middle of a honey hole. My parents still have that house, which they do the Weatherbird thing to Texas. So in wintertime during the rut, there's nobody there anyway. So it's a good time to go back. And it's like having a hunting lodge. And really the big idea this year is I'm trying to get Summer her first big game animal. So we're going to try to get Summer on a whitetail with her bow. Bought her a Hoyt a couple of Christmases ago, I believe. So she's been shooting over a year, and she's pretty deadly with her bow thus far. And you know, I'm excited to get her a shot at an animal, and that's kind of like as far as a first animal goes. You know, being in a familiar tree stand and some familiar woods is kind of a good place to do it, as opposed to, you know, launching your first arrow at a 700-pound elk.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm excited for you guys. That'll be a good time, and I hope she connects. That'd be awesome. I'm sure you'll have the camera rolling.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping I can get a little bit of video or photo footage of it. And, you know, obviously I'm still going to be hunting too. I'm trying to fill a freezer. Got no elk meat in the freezer other than a little bit of gifted meat here and there. So, you know, I got some whitetail to put down. And, yeah, and that's one thing with me as a bow hunter too, man. Is I'm happy to take some does down. I'm a doe killer at heart, and I'd love to get a big buck, but if I can get 3 or 4 does in the freezer, that's just as filling for my belly as anything.
I'll tell you what, there's something about a big doe that I just lose myself. Last year I shot a doe with my bow, and I was a wreck. My knees were – I was a wreck watching her come all the way across. And I was in the same exact tree stand this past Sunday when I shot over that doe that I shot at. She dropped right out. And I knew she was going to do that, and I just didn't aim accordingly. If I would have used my 20-yard pin and not my 30-yard pin, would have been perfect. But, you know, that's
it's like one of those
hindsight
spots.
2020.
I mean, man, they're as smart as any. That's one thing. Like the area, so the area I grew up on is literally pretty much doe beds. So in the rut, it's deadly. You know, you get bucks coming in, and you never kind of know. You never really know what bucks are coming in till it happens. But there's going to be does there, and there's some really mature does, and man, that's like some of my biggest prizes over the past, or trophies, I should say, over the past couple of years have been the big mature doe that picked me out the 2 years before that.
Yeah. Oh, there's like freaking
like,
redemption. There's nothing better. She's like, I know you're in that tree up there. I know you're there. Yeah, there's nothing better.
Dude, they know they're smart creatures, and I've seen some mature bucks be just the dumbest damn deer I've ever seen. And then you see a mature doe come in, and she picks you out from 200 yards away, and you're like, what the hell? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I didn't really process, that deer, that doe. I don't even know if I'll be able to sit that stand the rest of this. I mean, I'll sit it again, but it's like she knows. Like she comes back, she knows exactly what happened. And I mean, who knows how long she's been there. She probably knew that we were in that tree anyway. I don't know. But that's a whole nother.
It's crazy how they remember too, man. I was 2 years ago, I killed a doe that I had literally, like, she picked me out 2 years before. And she was always leading a good group. You know, she was definitely a matriarch, and they came to about 80 yards, and there's like a little point where, it's like a little clearing they have to run across, and she stuck her head out, and I swear I knew this doe like I knew it was her, and man, she looked at me from 80 yards away, looked straight at my tree right away, and I hadn't been in that tree for a year, like literally a year before, and this doe like knew where I was. And then somehow she felt comfortable enough to take him through there, and I got a shot at her, and I took her out. And that was like, to me, that was an absolute trophy. It was like literally
that's a huge accomplishment.
That deer knew me. Like that deer knew exactly where I was and knew where I had hunted her before. And, to get to take that deer out is like, maybe she gets you a shot at a big buck eventually too,
Right, exactly. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing.
All right,
I mean, really, it's like, harvesting any mature animal with a bow, that's a feat.
It is. I don't care what it is. I don't care what you harvest with your bow. If anything, is a huge accomplishment, and it's a great point. I think it's a great way to start wrapping this thing up. It's 10:30 here, and I'm turned into a pumpkin. It's been a long day. So
all right, Bill. Let's get you out of here.
So
I think at the beginning, Bill, I forgot to tell people how to find me.
That's why I asked you, and then you just got all excited and you ran off.
Man, I got really, really running with it there. So, if you want to find me, I'm real active on Instagram. My Instagram name is rhermannphotog. Herman is spelled Herrmann. On Facebook, Rob Herrmann Photography, and I do a little bit on YouTube, but not a whole lot as of yet. I'll probably start putting some videos up soon. So definitely, check me out. Do a little bit of everything, a lot of landscapes and wildlife and fishing and hunting and everything that keeps Billy happy. I think you got a couple of my photos on your wall, don't you, Bill? I
do. Actually, I'm sitting here looking at one right now. We decorated our whole back room with Rob Herrmann Photography. Beautiful stuff. Yep. You're a very talented young fellow, Rob.
Thank you, Bill.
You are. So I'll make sure to I'll put your stuff in the description of the podcast. So if anybody wants to check you out and they aren't on Instagram already, or if maybe they're just on Facebook, they can use that link to check you out. So appreciate you jumping on here, buddy. It was nice catching up with you, and we'll be in touch. And when you come home, if you guys whack them and you need some help stacking them, give me a jingle.
All right, man. Love to get out with you, Bill. You need to get out and hunt.
We do. All right, pal. All right, have a good night, and stay warm. Survive that big storm. Baby. Yeah, feed them.
Feed them, baby.
See ya. See ya, bye.